What is up, everybody? It's me, Future, here. And today I'm going to be reviewing the third studio album by British rockers, the Arctic Monkeys, entitled Humbug. Now, Humbug was a very big departure from this band's sound. They decided they wanted to go in a different direction, meaning they wanted their album to be darker and more mature. And that's what we got. Now, the problem is that Snowbound Baboons were known for being very witty and sarcastic and having a lot of fast-paced energy. That's why people came to their music. So making a dark, slow, kind of menacing album with a lot of layering and experimentation with more mature lyrics and themes was a little worrying for a lot of people, and can be a turnoff for a lot of fans of their early work, such as Favorite Worst Nightmare, which I reviewed not too long ago, because it is such a departure from their sound. But luckily, they picked the perfect producer to do it, Josh Homme of Queens of the Stone Age, who, if you're new around here, you probably don't know, but Queens of the Stone Age is one of my favorite bands. Josh Homme is kind of the father of stoner rock and desert rock, so as a result, this album picked up a very deserty rock vibe. And you can really hear this desert rock vibe throughout the entire album, but specifically on the menacing opener, My Propeller. Now, I think this song is great, and I think it was a really excellent choice for an album opener, because you hear it, and you know that the Chili Chimps are going in a brand new direction, and it shows you that this is not Favorite Worst Nightmare, this is not whatever people say I am. This is a new experience, and I think it does that very well. And I think it's a really solid song. It's very menacing and plotting. There's some great bass and guitar work throughout the entire song. And it's an extremely great way to open the album because it kicks in with these loud drums, bass, and a guitar, and then it kind of pushes back a little bit, and then you just get the menacing, kind of deserty guitar, and it plots out the entire song. And I think it's really solid. And I really particularly like the ending part of the song where Alex is singing, "My propeller won't start, and I can't get it started on my own. When are you arriving?" That's like my favorite part of the song. It all builds up to that moment, and I think Alex gives a very engaging vocal performance on that part, and it really is a good way to tie up the song, and I think it's a really good way, like I said, to open the album and really introduce you to the fact that this is going to be very different. Now, the song's lyrics could maybe be interpreted as Alex saying he has erectile dysfunction. That's a joke I've heard been made over and over again, and it is a funny joke, but I interpret this song as Alex kind of being in love with this person, or a friend, or someone in his life, and he's not happy with that. Whether it doesn't even necessarily have to be a girl or a significant other. It could be a family member. It could be about his mother or about a friend. That he can't really live without them. Coax me out of my low, sink into tomorrow, coax me out of my low, and have a spin of my propeller. I interpret that as his propeller is his happiness in his life, and without this certain person, or without his friends, or the people around him, he's going to be sad. His propeller won't spin without them. And I think that's a sweet little message. But who knows, because this album is supposed to be darker and more mature, but you can see it, the darkness and maturity coming through, talking about his depression and how he is sad without these people, and that he gets sad and has these dark thoughts. Yeah. This song could also be interpreted as being about drug use. His propeller won't start without a high. You know, if he's in his low, his propeller coaxes him out of his high. You're high when you're flying in a plane. You need a propeller for a plane. So it's also very possible that this song is about drug use and using drugs to numb the pain of whatever you're going through. Either way, I think it shows that kind of more dark vibe. I am kind of leaning toward the second interpretation, just because this album is a little darker and more mature in places. But, you know, there are plenty of ways to interpret things. You tend to project your own feelings as well onto songs. So, really, it depends on the day. But, you know, Now, Josh Homme actually flew this band out to California to record this album so he could produce it in the desert at his own studio, and I think that also really helps to bring out the more deserty vibe of this album, and it makes it very unique and stand out against the Arctic Monkeys' first two releases. And Crying Lightning is the song most people know from this album. I think it was a fairly big single, and I would say it's one of the better songs on the album. It's got that build-up that the Arctic Monkeys are so great at. It starts out, the first verse just starts with this bass line, this really sludgy bass, and it keeps going, and it builds to the second the second verse, where the sick guitar line kicks in, and eventually hits the first chorus, and then continues to go. And the second chorus comes around, where the song reaches an absolute crescendo, and I love this part. It's probably my favorite part of the album, where Alex really hits it hard. He goes into his high register and sings, "Your pastimes consisted of the strengths," and that is probably my favorite moment on the album, like I said, not only because Alex's higher register vocals are really great, but also the melody line is absolutely infectious. I love the melody on that part. I could listen to it over and over again all day. It's just done very well. And overall, I think this song is really great. Like I said, the guitar line is sick, and it really does bring out that kind of menacing, darker, deserty vibes that this album is going for, where maybe sometimes that gets lost on this album. I think it definitely hits on Crying Lightning. Now, this song also brings out my big problem with this album, and that's Alex's lyrics. They make absolutely no sense. I don't know what this man is rambling on about. It's supposed to be mature and dark, but I have no clue what he's going on about. And how you like me to aggravate the ice cream man on angry afternoons. That makes absolutely no sense to me. And most of these lyrics don't. Outside the cafe by the cracker factory, you were practicing a magic trick. As you bit into your strawberry lace and then offered me your attention in the form of a gobstopper. I have no idea what that's supposed to mean. And I think Alex is mostly just kind of rambling and doesn't really have an idea of what he was trying to go for. And a lot of the lyrics don't fit the music whatsoever, because here the music is dark and menacing, and Alex is talking about the ice cream man, you know, almost something that would feel like it would work better on whatever people say, That's What I'm Not. That album is sarcastic and immature. That's the appeal of it. But why is it on this album that's supposed to be darker and more mature? And I feel like the lyrics, a lot of the time, just do not fit the vibe of the album, and I have no idea what Alex is going on a lot about. You can also hear that on Pretty Visitors, but we'll get to that. But overall, musically, Crying Lightning is a wonderful song, and it might be my favorite on the album. It's tied with another one. That's really all I have to say about it, though, but it is extremely solid. It's the one I come back to the most, probably. Even when I wasn't into this album as much as I am now, I still really enjoyed Crying Lightning. Next, it's followed up by another pretty great track, Dangerous Animals, which opens with a cappella, the band singing a cappella, and I believe you can also hear Josh Homme sing on it as well, which is always nice. And then some heavy drums kick in, and a great guitar riff that goes throughout the entire song, and it's a pretty great riff. It reminds me of their first two albums, where the riffs really just hook you into the song, and you want to listen to it the entire time, and keeps you engaged, and it plays throughout the entire song. And it's one of the few songs that has a really great riff like this that's missing from a lot of the songs on this album. I also really like the chorus, where Alex spells out dangerous and animal, because the song's called Dangerous Animal, and the way he does it is so appealing and so infectious. Whenever I listen to the song, I think about the way he sings, spelling the words dangerous and animal all day long, because it's just he does it really well. The pattern and the delivery of it is very interesting, and like I said, very infectious, very catchy. I'm very into it. Once again, as every Arctic Monkeys song, the drums on this song are honestly amazing. The Arctic Monkeys drummer is amazing. On every single one of their albums, it is the highlight, and that sticks out through the entirety of Humbug, and especially on the song, because after that a cappella opening, the drums just hit hard, and they hit hard throughout the entirety of the song, and they really, like I said, just hit you like a train the entire time, but I wouldn't have it any other way. But once again, a common problem I have with this album is the lyrics. Like on verse 2, when the acrobat fell off the beam, she broke everyone's heart. And that whole section, the light it fidgets through, the thoughts soon revert to you. What are you going on about, Alex? I'm assuming this is about a relationship? Maybe a toxic one that doesn't go well. They're both dangerous animals. He says A-N-I-M-A-L, animal, makes my head pirouette more than I would be willing to confess. So how I'm kind of interpreting this song is that, like, these two people aren't together anymore because they're both kind of terrible and toxic for each other, but Alex is still thinking about her constantly, and maybe he doesn't want to admit that. But you have to think about that for a while, because I've listened to this album so much in the last couple of days, and I have no fucking idea what this man's talking about on any of these songs. It's pretty bad lyrically, I'm gonna be honest. The melodies and stuff are great. The instrumentation is great. I think Alex does a good job delivering these lyrics, but he didn't do a great job writing them. And that's the thing. You can be dark and mature, but not be stupid and pretentious. But that's what happens on this album. Not to say I do enjoy the song quite a bit. I'm just not a fan of the lyrics. Same with Crying Lightning. I adore that song, but the lyrics just do not hit for me. Now, the next song, Secret Door, is another song I really like. I think lyrically this song works a little better as well, but it's a mess, structure-wise. It feels like 3 different songs put together into one, because it opens up with these really dreamy and reverbed guitars that sound absolutely beautiful and have, like, pianos and, like, glockenspiels and stuff. A very dreamy, kind of stripped-back moment of Alex just singing Fools on Parade, Cavett and Carry On for Waiting Eyes. And it's just a beautiful moment. And then it kicks into a completely different song with the verse. And the verses sound completely different from the opening part, which also closes the song. But at the same time, there's a chorus as well, and the secret door swings behind us, which is backed up by a pretty good bass line, and Alex does a good performance of it, but it all feels so disjointed. All 3 parts of these songs all feel like they're parts of different songs, if that makes sense. I still very much enjoy all 3 parts, I just don't think they necessarily mesh together well. But my favorite part of the song is the Fools on Parade. It opens, and I really wish the song would stay stripped back and pretty like this, but it doesn't. But when it ends, it's a completely different story, because it's that part again, but it's big, and there's an amazing bass line backing it, and some beautiful guitars as well that kind of back up Alex singing the Fools on Parade, and he does it very engagingly, and it's very emotional and a very beautiful moment. On that last Fools on Parade part, the bass line is amazing. The bass backing us up is great. And the bassists should be very proud of what they've done, because they take this very beautiful part and they give it an absolute backbone, and it's wonderful. Like I said, the ending of the song is beautiful, and the beginning of the song is beautiful, and I really like the kind of bridge chorusy parts. The Secret Door part is a very nice little part. The verses I don't like as much, but they're still fine. They just don't mesh together. The song is extremely messy with bad transitions, and it just does not flow together whatsoever. I still enjoy it, but it could have been done a lot better. A song I don't enjoy is Potion Approaching. I think it's pretty awful, actually. First off, the mixing is terrible. Where I thought the bass on the Fools on Parade part on Secret Door was great, there was just enough to give a backbone to a beautiful part. On this, the bass is turned up louder than everything else, and you hear it, and you're like, oh my god, that's so loud! And it hurts, and the drums sound terrible as well. And the mixing is just overall really bad. Like I said, the bass is way too loud. And Alex himself, he sounds like he's recording in a tin can, not a microphone. And that being said, he sounds like he's as close to that tin can as he can get, and screaming not screaming, but singing as loudly and obnoxiously as he can. And it's terrible. The vocal performance is just bad. That mixed with the terrible bass line, the song is a pain to listen to. It's ear-grating. It's very bad. Maybe the worst song the Arctic Monkeys has ever made, to be quite honest. That being said, there is some really good guitar work, specifically on the second verse, the doo-doo, 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 doo-doo. I really like that part. It almost reminds me of Queens of the Stone Age. And then I realize, wait a second, Josh Homme of Queens of the Stone Age produced this. And then you get to the breakdown of the song, and you realize this is the worst song Queens of the Stone Age has ever written. Just Queens of the Stone Age didn't perform it. The Arctic Monkeys did. This sounds like a throwaway from Lullabies to Paralyze, and honestly, it's not even good enough for Era Vulgaris. This sounds like a terrible Queens of the Stone Age ripoff, and Arctic Monkeys do it no justice. It's awful. This song is just straight up bad. Lyrically, I don't care because I don't want to pay attention to the lyrics. I don't want to listen to the song. It actually sounds really bad. It's ear-grating. Overall, just a very garbage song, and it's not followed up by a much better song. It's followed up by Fire and the Thud. And on this song, the Antarctic orangutans try to go for a more psychedelic sound, spaced out. Now, when a spaced out psychedelic sound is done right, it can be absolutely blissful. Take, for example, Blown a Wish by My Bloody Valentine, or Myth by Beach House. Beautiful songs. Or, like on Fire and a Thud, it can be completely boring. This song goes in one ear and comes right out the other, and I've listened to this album so many times, and I just cannot stay engaged with the song whatsoever. It's extremely boring. Alex isn't doing anything interesting with his voice. The instrumentation isn't interesting whatsoever. It's just there. Background music. Like I said, in one ear, out the other. And it does pick up by the end with one of the most disgusting guitar solos I've ever heard. The guitar tone on this song when it kicks in is the worst tone. It's like the band was sitting around and thought, you know what? Josh, find the most obnoxious, terrible sounding guitar tone you can, and let's throw it in the middle of this psychedelic song. Thanks, guys. So now not only is the song boring, but when it's not boring, it's garbage. Thanks. So I'm not a fan of Fire and Thud either. I think it's another pretty awful song. The next track is Cornerstone, which might be my favorite song on the album, to be quite honest. It's excellent. Now, part of the experimentation of this album is they wanted to try layering different sounds and instrumentation, and I think this is the perfect example of that idea of what they were doing, because it's layered. The bass, the acoustic guitar, the drums, keyboard kind of organ, and pianos are all layered, along with these kind of chopped up but very dreamy sounding guitars. And it's just a pleasure to listen to. It sounds so good on the ears. This wall of noise just sounds so good and just sweeps you away the entire time you listen to it. And lyrically, this song is good too. It's about a girl that Alex used to love and used to be with, and still thinks about all the time, and he goes around in his day-to-day life and sees girls that look just like this girl, and he tries to start a relationship with them, but then asks, can I call you by her name? And they're like, no. And that's the entirety of the song, and he gets in a taxi cab that she was in, and like smells her scent on the seatbelt, and that's the chorus, and it sounds creepy, but it sounds so sweet, and the guitars in the background make it so dreamy and so beautiful. And he doesn't tell the taxi driver any of the shortcuts or stuff. He makes him take the long ride home just so he can sit there and think about her. And at the end of the song, he runs into this girl's sister at the Cornerstone, and they get together. And she says, you can call me whatever you want. And it's just very sweet. And it puts a smile on my face every time I listen to it. I really like Cornerstone. I think it's a pretty excellent song. Lyrically, it might be silly, but it's fun and it's heartwarming, especially at the end. And musically, it's beautiful. I just really like Cornerstone. I think it's a pretty great song. Yeah. The next track is Dance Little Liar. I don't have much to say about it. It's not a particularly interesting song. It just kind of goes through the motions. It's pretty boring. But I will give it this. The background vocals on it sound really great. They're very pretty. And about the 3-minute mark, the song picks up. Some heavy guitars kick in, and Alex, his voice, he sounds super interested all of a sudden. And the song becomes very engaging. Because throughout a lot of this album, Alex is pretty laid back with his vocal deliveries, with the exception of a couple parts on My Propeller and Cornerstone and an upcoming song. Or My Propeller and Crying Lightning, sorry, and an upcoming song. But when the guitars and stuff kick in and the sound picks up, he becomes very engaging, and you're just into the song. But it's at the 3-minute mark, so it's only the last minute. So really, the only other thing getting you through the song is the really great backing vocals. Overall, though, it's not a bad song, but it's not an amazing one either. It's just there. Pretty Visitors, on the other hand, starts out with this organ that sounds like it's from a circus, and then a banger ensues. This song goes off, and it goes off hard. It's so much fun to listen to, and just bop out to. Lyrically, I've got problems with it. Like, what came first, the chicken or the dickhead? Very infamous. I'm sorry that my room, the sun just, like, came out behind a cloud, and deal with it. Yeah, and a lot of the stuff I do have problems with, lyrically, but I think musically it makes up for it, especially with an amazing transition from the first verse into the chorus, where the drums do a really good job of leading into a different time signature, because it starts with a really fast time signature, and when the drums kick in to go into the slower chorus, they transition just very well and lead the entire song into the slower time signature. And like I said, a lot of the transitions on this album aren't necessarily the greatest, especially on a song like Secret Door, but I think it does it really well in Pretty Visitors. Not my favorite track on the album, but probably the fastest song on the album, the biggest banger on the album, and it is pretty fun to listen to. Overall, not bad. And then the album ends with The Jeweler's Hand, which is a song I feel very mixed on, because it brings in a lot of different sounds and instruments and stuff, like a glockenspiel and kind of that more Baroque pop kind of sound into it. And I like that, but the first 3 minutes of the song are very boring. The last 2 minutes of this song are beautiful, when everything reaches this big, loud crescendo, and all the different noises and stuff that have been implemented, and all different sounds, are just all being super front and forward, and you can hear everything, and it's a very beautiful 2 minutes, but you have to get through a very boring 3 minutes first. The Jeweler's Hand is a far too long song, and the weakest Arctic Monkeys closer up to this point, because keep in mind, this was their third album. The closing on the first album, A Certain Romance, which is my favorite Arctic Monkeys song. The closing on the second album, 505, my second favorite Arctic Monkeys song. So when you compare The Jeweler's Hand to the last two closers, it's crazy just how different they are, because the other two are engaging and fun and have explosions of rock and noise, whereas this does have an explosion of sound, but it's more kind of Baroque-y, and it's also just not engaging. You don't get into it as much as you do those last two songs, and it's a very disappointing closer, but not necessarily a bad song. But this album, overall, starts to lose me. I didn't like it for a long time, and it has grown on me. I don't think Arctic Monkeys has ever made a bad album, but I would say Humbug is easily their weakest. It's very front-loaded, starting out with great songs like My Propeller and Crying Lightning and Dangerous Animals, and they all carry this really kind of dark, menacing, deserty vibe, and I like that vibe. I think the Arctic Monkeys pull it off well, but it gets lost by the end of the album, and as you keep going throughout the album, you get songs like Fire and a Thud, and The Jeweler's Hand, and stuff that just doesn't stick with you whatsoever, and it's kind of sad, and it's kind of sad that it loses that deserty vibe and menacing vibe as well, and a lot of boring songs on it. But there are some amazing songs like Crying Lightning and The Cornerstone, which Cornerstone has quickly become one of my favorite tracks on the album, if not my favorite, probably tied with Crying Lightning, along with My Propeller, Secret Door, even though it's messy, is a really nice track, especially that Fools on Parade part, and Dangerous Animals is great as well. But overall, I think I'm feeling a 6+ on this album. It's not bad by any means. Now, keep in mind my rating. 0 is unlistenable. 1 is, it's really bad, and the same goes for 2. 3 is, okay, it's not the worst thing I've ever heard, but it's bad. 4 is, alright, I don't like it, but you're getting there. 5 is, 6 is, alright, good, but very flawed. 7 is, this is really good. An 8 would be, yeah, this is great. This is a really great album. 9 is, this is amazing, and of course 10 is perfect. So I am feeling a 6+ on Humbug by the Arctic Monkeys. Let me know what you think. Not a bad album, just not necessarily always an engaging one. So yeah, that's what I have to say about that. I tried to keep my points brief on this one because I'm going to be putting out a couple more videos in the next couple of days. I want to cover Donda by Kanye West if that drops. I want to cover the new Neck Deep, and I want to cover the new Taylor Swift. And maybe even the new Oliver Tree that came out last week that I missed. So I'm going to get to all that eventually. But that's my thoughts on Humbug by Arctic Monkeys, and I'll see you all next time.